2020 had a slogan, it would be the year of our discontent. This sentiment is felt in virtually every country globally as national governments declare war on their economy, the working class, the poor, and the very old, the very young. In America, the discontent is genuine. It says, already reeling from a mass propaganda campaign of division created by the mainstream media, corporate outlets, Americans were still attempting to claw their way.
Does everybody see that?
Out of an economic depression with some success.
You see that?
Says, then of course came
They're
COVID.
getting closer, folks.
Says, China engaged in a massive police state repression of what few individuals' liberties existed, locking residents in their apartment buildings, disappearing doctors, and allegedly patients themselves. Australia and Western Europe joined in the hysteria, with Australia attempting to become a totalitarian, as the Chinese
see that?
and mainly succeeded.
Hey, people on the beach, look up. Just look up.
Biggest propaganda campaign since the war in Iraq, and the United States locked in some media-manipulated struggle. Western Europe saw its government shut down their economies, deploy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt her.
And allegedly patients themselves. Came COVID. Says China engaged in a massive police state repression of what few individuals' liberties existed, locking residents in their apartment buildings, disappearing doctors, and allegedly patients themselves. Australia and Western Europe joined in the hysteria, with Australia attempting to become a totalitarian, as the Chinese and mainly succeeding. Western Europe engaged in the biggest propaganda campaign since the war in Iraq, and the United States locked in some media-manipulated struggle. Western Europe.
I'm going to pause that for a moment. And this. I can't believe how lucky I got to catch that. And there's two of them. And that's just on the very first screen. Y'all saw me open the app. You know I ain't making it up.
Saw its government shut down their economies, deploy National Guard troops, enforce lockdowns, and wear masks for their state's populations. As a result of this implementation of communo-fascism, the world's economy tanked, shrank, and may never come back as long as these governments and leaders remain in power, which is definitely true. I'm in my son's room. That's why in the background you see the TV going on. He's got a video game going on.
I don't know what that is.
In America, however, amid the economic collapse and COVID hysteria, a new threat has emerged. Almost every major city in America is experiencing violence on a nightly basis. And it's true. Riots, physical assaults, vandalism, and street clashes are becoming the new normal, ordinary. Some conflicts are deadly as the right begins to fight back against the attacks of the left. We're seeing armed conflicts in our streets on an increasingly regular basis. For those living in America, the civil wars, social disruption, and chaos sowed overseas for so many years appear to be germinating back home. But when empires collapse, they often leave a vacuum. At the very least, they present opportunities to other powers and especially other empires. In addition to Americans' problems at home, it appears the entire world might be sleepwalking into a third world war.
Yep.
And yet another restructuring, I should say, of the world order. Seemingly localized incidents have an international and global root, and the reverberations will be felt across the entire planet. I'm telling you, something's about to happen.
Yep.
I've been feeling this and feeling this. Something is about to come down. I don't know what, but something is about to come down. And as that thing, whatever it is, comes down, we're going up. I don't know when, but I know it's inevitable, and I know it's imminent. What it is, not quite sure. What I'm hoping, it's the rapture. It goes on to say, while most people alive today might believe that the First World War was a direct result of the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, the truth is somebody laid the groundwork for that war years prior.
Yep.
Think about that.
Yeah. The people that fund both sides
Somebody
of every
laid
war.
the groundwork for all of this to take place when Trump won his first round.
This camera.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not an accident.
Nope.
By no stretch of the imagination.
What the hell?
Indeed, even after the assassination, the sparks did not immediately fly. As historian Christopher Clark wrote, the world was sleepwalking into one of the greatest catastrophes of the 20th century.
What the hell?
It took over a month before the first shots of the war were truly fired after the assassination. In the meantime, the world's population carried on as it had prior, going to work, going to school, engaging in businesses, etc. Politicians crowned about national dignity and others about retribution. In a sense, once the initial shock of the assassination had worn off, life continued. Same with 9/11. Life continued. People who crowded the churches for a while, but then they didn't. They wore off. It is entirely possible that we find ourselves in just the same situation. While the world's people are focused on a virus, and America teeters on the brink of civil war, the world's governments are positioning themselves for a global conflagration, the likes of which we've never seen, if for no other reason that the existence and proliferation of nuclear weapons. Below are just a few examples of the world's current hotspots that could, at any moment, drag the entire globe into a military confrontation. At any moment. And I'm just going to name a few of these. Armenia and Azerbaijan, I can't pronounce the name that well, but it says, this conflict continues today. Both sides have fired at one another repeatedly over the past few years. On Sunday, this past Sunday, however, the situation erupted and an official state of war was declared in the region. This isn't on the news.
Of course not.
Zero Hedge reports early in the morning around 7 a.m. the
The news ain't news anymore. It's all propaganda.
Forces launched a large-scale aggression, including missile attacks.
Anybody with a brain should know that.
Ministry stated Sunday,
but they're all brainwashed.
Armenian has since reportedly declared martial law and a total military mobilization. This happened this Sunday.
Fire in the sky.
While previously avoiding large-scale military clashes, there is no potential to bring in much more significant players. Russia and Turkey and NATO itself, as both nations are acting as patrons and weapon supplier to the Armenians. There's an article. That's another plane. It sounds like a warplane or something. It's very loud. I don't know whether you can hear that, but it's
I can
loud.
hear it. Yeah.
You can tell someone's here because the airspace is empty, and it has to be empty. But it goes on to say another place where war could break out at any time: the United States and Russia. Although things might not appear as dangerous today as they did during the time of Obama's red lines in Syria and the highest point of American provocation in Ukraine, 2020 has marked direct, albeit minuscule, skirmishes between Russians and Americans in Syria. Incidents of fistfights followed numerous Russians and Americans' refusal to allow others to pass through checkpoints. Americans and Russian soldiers have intentionally run each other's patrols off the road, resulting in injuries. And it is now commonplace for these forces to collide in this manner, with one or the other being forced off the highway by slightly more substantial contingent of opposing forces, complete with helicopters circling overhead. Even if the Russian, or American military's strategy is to let boys be boys, how long will it go before these boys decide to fire on each other? Think about it. There was something that happened this morning, and I got to find the article. The plane got
I gotta
shot
stop
down
it
and the
for
pilot was
13
killed.
minutes. I'll go ahead and stop it now.
I got to find that.
Sorry to cut her short, but I have to keep my videos short or they won't upload. She preaches the gospel also. Very good, I might add. God bless you all. I love you all. Be safe.